Have you ever mapped out this massive, ambitious plan, felt completely pumped to tackle it, and then just sat down and did absolutely nothing? Yeah, if you're nodding your head right now, listen, I want to validate that feeling right out of the gate. You're not alone, and I promise you, you are not broken. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the literal brain science of why we avoid work. We're going to completely dismantle that heavy guilt you feel about putting off big plans, just by understanding the basic mechanics of your own mind.
Okay, let's dive into this because this exact question is at the center of so much daily frustration for all of us. We have this deep-seated belief that if we just had a bit more willpower, or if we weren't so incredibly lazy, we'd conquer the world. But cognitive science, it tells us a completely different story. There's an actual, literal, neurological cycle happening inside your head right now that's slamming the brakes on your dreams. It's an automatic process. And to stop it, well, we first have to solve the mystery of what's actually triggering it in the first place.
See, for decades, we've basically been treating the wrong disease. We buy fancy planners, we download every scheduling app under the sun, we try time blocking, but procrastination researcher Tim Pickles spent 20 years studying this exact phenomenon, and he discovered a fundamental truth. Procrastination is not a time management problem, it's an emotion regulation problem. When you sit down to start a big creative project or write a massive report, your brain isn't failing to read a clock. Instead, it's actively trying to escape a negative feeling. That task brings up self-doubt, overwhelm, anxiety, maybe the fear that the final result just won't be good enough. Your brain absolutely hates those negative emotions, so what does it do? It looks for an exit.
And this brilliantly illustrates the trap we fall into, which neuroscientists call the avoidance loop. Let's walk through it together. First, you face a difficult task. Second, that task triggers a negative emotion, like dread or anxiety. Third, you avoid the task completely. Maybe you start scrolling on your phone or, reorganizing your desk. And fourth, suddenly that negative feeling of dread vanishes and you feel short-term relief. But here's the really dangerous part. In psychology, behaviors that get rewarded get repeated. That quick hit of relief acts as a powerful, addictive reward. Your brain learns that avoiding hard things makes you feel better instantly, so it just starts doing it on autopilot.
Section 1, the brain battle. Emotion versus action. To really grasp why this avoidance loop is so stubbornly hard to break, we need to zoom in on the underlying neuroscience. Our daily struggle to get things done isn't just a metaphor. It's a literal biological battle happening between two very specific, competing systems in our head. In one corner, we have the amygdala. Think of this as your brain's emotional alarm system. Evolutionarily speaking, it's designed to keep you alive by detecting physical threats in your environment and screaming at you to run away. But here's the catch. The amygdala isn't great at distinguishing between a hungry bear in the woods and a blank Word document. If a task feels overwhelming or scary, your amygdala treats it as a literal threat to your survival. It sounds the alarm and tells you to flee.
Now, in the other corner, we have the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, or the DAC. If the amygdala is the panicking child, the DAC is the rational adult in the room. This is the part of your brain that actually makes you act. It's capable of taking that fear signal from the amygdala, analyzing it, shutting it down if it realizes it's a false alarm, and physically pushing you to do what you're supposed to do.
So, what's actually happening when you decide to, say, deep clean your kitchen instead of writing your essay? Well, you're experiencing what's called an amygdala hijack. Your emotional brain is completely overriding your rational brain. The amygdala's alarm bells are ringing so wildly loudly that the rational DAC essentially just loses the fight, and you flee from the task. You let the emotional brain win. But here is the real warning here. This isn't just a temporary lapse in judgment. Our brains are highly adaptable, and what you repeat, you become. Every single time you go through that avoidance loop and feel that rush of relief, you are physically strengthening the neural pathway for procrastination. You're wiring your brain to make avoidance its automatic, default behavior. And conversely, your discipline circuit, your DAC, it weakens like an unused muscle. You are literally training your brain to become a better procrastinator. Which brings us to section 2, the sneaky traps, how your brain disguises avoidance. Now, what's really interesting about this is you might be thinking to yourself right now, wait a second, I don't just sit on the couch doing nothing. I'm busy literally all the time. Well, there's a fascinating neurological reason for that. If your brain just let you sit there staring at the wall, it would trigger a brand new negative emotion, guilt. And the amygdala wants to escape guilt just as much as anxiety. So it comes up with clever disguises, like perfectionism. We often wear perfectionism like a badge of honor, right? But surprisingly, research shows that high-scoring perfectionists are actually the biggest procrastinators. In fact, and this is wild, studies show that highly perfectionist professors actually publish fewer academic papers than their less perfectionist colleagues. Why? Because their fear of the work not being flawless completely paralyzes them. Perfectionism is just a disguise. It's a sneaky way to ensure you never start, so you never have to face the pain of falling short. And here's disguise number 2, productive procrastination. I'm gonna act as a relatable mirror for a second because this one gets literally everyone. This is when you spend an hour color-coding your notes instead of actually writing the paper, or tweaking the margins on your resume for the 5th time instead of applying to the job, or maybe reading 10 whole books on entrepreneurship, or watching productivity explainers, like this very one, instead of doing the work. Researcher Tim Peichel calls this short-term mood repair. These are safe, low-risk tasks that give you a fake sense of accomplishment. They repair your mood without exposing you to the threat of the real, scary work. To prove just how much our brains totally fabricate the sense of dread, Peichel conducted this incredible piece of research back before smartphones even existed. It's known as the pager study. He gave 45 university students actual physical pagers. For 5 days leading up to a major academic deadline, he paged them 8 times a day. Every time it beeped, the students had to report exactly what they were doing and how they felt about their impending assignment. The findings completely expose the lies our brains tell us. Early in the week, when the students were hardcore procrastinating, they would constantly justify it to the pager. They'd say things like, "Oh, I work better under pressure," or "I'll feel more like doing it tomorrow." But here's the kicker. When the deadline finally arrived and forced them to actually do the work, absolutely 0 students, not a single one, said they were glad they waited. Every single one wished they had started earlier, noting that the task wasn't nearly as bad as they had built it up to be in their heads. This proves we aren't actually avoiding the task itself. We are avoiding how we mistakenly think the task will make us feel.
Let's move to and see how this builds into section 3, the cure, breaking the avoidance loop. If your brain has trained itself to run away from negative emotions, can we theoretically train it to do the exact opposite? Yes, absolutely. After 20 years of research, Tim Peichel found the answer. And honestly, it is embarrassingly simple, but highly backed by the science we just covered. The cure basically comes down to a 2-step fix to interrupt that automatic loop. Step 1, catch it and name the emotion. When you find yourself color-coding or doom scrolling, stop and literally say out loud, "I am feeling overwhelmed right now." Just by naming the anxiety, you force your brain to switch gears from the panicking emotional amygdala right back into the rational analytical DAC. Step 2, make the task stupidly small. If the amygdala treats big tasks as a threat, well, we have to remove the threat level entirely by shrinking the goal. The goal here is literally just to trick your brain's alarm system into calming down. For example, your task isn't to write a 10-page essay tonight. That's a massive threat. Your stupidly small task is just to open the Google Doc and write 1 single sentence. Your task isn't an exhausting hour-long workout. It's literally just putting on your workout shoes and standing outside your front door. You must drop all worry about the final outcome. You're just taking a micro step to bypass the emotional panic. So the crucial point is this magical number, 5 to 10. You only need to commit to starting your stupidly small task for 5 to 10 minutes. That's it. You have full permission to quit after 10 minutes. But here's the neuroscience magic. You rarely will. Because once you actually start, the DAC takes over, the amygdala realizes there's no physical danger, and the dread just evaporates. The actual process of doing the work is almost always significantly easier than the monumental dread you felt before starting. We've seen how the brain's avoidance loop tricks us, how the amygdala hijacks our best intentions, and how disguised productivity keeps us running in place. But now, you have the tools to override the whole shebang. So, I'll leave you with this final question. What stupidly small task are you avoiding right now? Catch the emotion, shrink the goal down to a 5-minute action, and let your rational brain take the wheel. Close this explainer, go start that 5-minute task, and break your avoidance loop right now.